Welcome to the Women and Girls Empower Women Summit virtual experience across borders. This summit is designed to provide empowerment, advocacy, to raise awareness of the plight of women and girls across borders by documenting similarities and differences and promoting gender-based violence prevention and gender equality in governance. This summit will be a regional, pedagogical, experiential knowledge share of IVLP alumni between 3 continents, collectively with Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Ghana, Kenya, Sri Lanka, and India. There are 3 components to the summit. 1, focus group discussions to be held in August of 2021. 2, a 5-day virtual workshop to be held November 22nd through the 26th of 2021. And 3, a global summit to be held April 4th through the 8th of 2022. We want you to think, share your thoughts, views, experiences, lend your voice as we advocate for equality and equity and navigate towards governance, peace, and security for our women and girls.
Welcome to International Women's Day, and I am your host, Kendra Bowe, and we're streaming live from the American space here in the Bahamas at the University of Bahamas, and we want to officially welcome you all today to our International Women's Day program. We have some very distinguished guests who are here with us live today. Our guest speaker who is here is none other than the Minister of Education and Vocational Training, Glenys Hanna-Martin, who is our longest serving female parliamentarian, and I think that deserves another round of applause. I also want to acknowledge all of our other distinguished guests here in the presence of the U.S. Charge and also our University of Bahamas officials who are here. So thank all of you for coming and being here with us today. And so without further ado, we're going to get right into this, starting a lively discussion, as Darrell Miller would say, provocative. A lively discussion we're going to have today as we promote gender equality. We have had the opportunity with the GPS program that now has been going on for almost 9 months, empowering women and girls throughout 6 countries: the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, India, Sri Lanka, Ghana, and Kenya. And we have been hearing from these young persons who are so filled with ideas and so filled with passion. And we just want to take this opportunity as we acknowledge International Women's Day to also recognize those young participants from all over the world who've been lending their voice to see change happen in terms of the laws, lending their voice in terms of being able to be a peer mentor to other young persons so that they can get the message out in terms of gender equality. So let's give a hand to our participants all over the world who are a part of this project. And so now we're going to go right in asking our minister who is here today. She is no stranger in terms of to the Bahamian society and the impact that she has had. She comes from a political family of one of our national heroes, but she is a hero in her own right. I saw a clip of her of an interview she did with Shine the Light. And that clip that was put together as she was speaking, I'm telling you, she's like a freedom fighter. She was speaking and sharing in terms about Parliament. And she had her finger like this. No, you know, should be not allowed to enter into the House of Parliament. And so she's definitely a firefighter, a freedom fighter in terms of that passion that is on the inside of her in advocating not just for women's rights, but just for us as Bahamians as a whole. And so, Ms. Martin, can you tell us and our audience, for those who are viewing around the world, a little about yourself and what gives you your passion and your drive as it relates to women's rights, but also in terms of making your mark in terms of politics?
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It is such an honor and a humbling one to be here, because I certainly, I don't have that sort of perspective of myself in that way. I believe it should just be, and so I'm just being. But I have had I think my greatest asset has been the atmosphere in which I was reared and raised. And it was 2 parents who were very progressive, very passionate, and who were involved at the time in the liberation of the Bahamian people. And so they dragged me along, holding on to my mother's hand, you know, at the Southern Recreation Ground, where you heard the freedom songs and you felt the fervor and the vigor. And I heard the speeches of my father. And, you know, today they're talking about International Women's Day. And, you know, and I think Hillary Clinton declared at the Beijing conference that women's rights are human rights.
Yes.
And I grew up in that atmosphere of the advocacy of human rights.
Yes.
And you know, and the rest is history. I followed my father. I listened to him. He was my hero. Just thinking this morning, you know, he was so much my hero that I didn't think he could die. No, I'm serious. I'm still coming to terms with that because he was just so huge in my psyche. But I listened to him and I listened to his philosophy and his viewpoint of the world. And it orientated me. And my mother was similarly passionate. It orientated me in a way in which I saw I have come to see my purpose as one that is not self-indulgent, but that is externalized to see how we can reshape the world in which we live in. And we have a lot of work to do, And the role of women and the where women stand today is a big part of what has to happen. And it's within the general context. And I think it's very important that we do not isolate it so it becomes this thing about women, this, and it is part of the overall reformative, liberational aspect of how human society progresses.
Yes.
And these are residual and remnant issues that some of which are still big in terms of how they impact quality of life issues.
Yeah.
And so it's very important that if we aspire to creating a fair, just, humane, beautiful society, that we do all that we can to ensure that we uphold the rights of all humans. And so to put it in a nutshell, it was the people who brought me into the world and who reared me who was so influential in my outlook and in my life.
Thank you so much for that. But even though you speak about those persons who were so instrumental, we have had many women who have come into politics, some of the younger ones, and then you see them fade away. We see some come, some fade away. We see some come in, they've made their mark, and then they move on to other things. But you've remained, and you have remained steadfast. You have been like that one constant in terms of, as a female amongst the men, who is saying, no, I am capable and I am competent and I'm able to get the job done. And even when, some of your male counterparts may have failed, you was still there championing and winning and representing. And so what advice can you give in terms of to the young girls and the women here and around the world in terms of what is that fortitude or strength that they need to have or possess to keep them going despite all the odds that they may face?
Well, I think that I think one of the first things is to understand your purpose, and to appreciate that God has given you, every person, gifts, and that your purpose is to express those gifts. And you have to have, believe it or not, courage. You need the courage, because particularly for girls and women, the world is not always facilitative. And so sometimes you have to be dogged, but you have to know, but not just for its own sake, just be obnoxious noise, but for the purpose of ensuring that your purpose is fulfilled. For me in politics, I see my role as transformative, as seeking to change where change must come. And to be truthful, I might, at the end of the road, there's probably going to be a lot of work to be done. But I don't want the record to reflect that during my tenure, I kept a seat warm, because I don't see that as the purpose of me being here in public life. So to the girls, I say, be clear on your purpose and have the courage to be all that you can be. And there are a lot of forces that, even about how we look, of women of color, how our hair looks, how our, women in the Caribbean, how big our hips are. And after 3 children, I can tell you it's a struggle right now. But, we have to be confident and comfortable in who we are. There's no image on TV of what we are and who we are.
Yes.
And, we are who we are. And, you want to stay healthy, but still, so I think that it's the combined thing of having a view of what your purpose is. And that is, I think I have a fairly good foundational understanding, but it's refined as you go along. But also to have the courage when all the pressures, the cultural insistencies, and all these different things that, pressure us internally, so that we feel inhibited about how to move forward. You have to fight beyond those things. You have to fight, because I see my role as creating paths, not as necessarily towing a line. And towing a line, there's nothing wrong with that if the line goes in the right direction. But I see my role as being a very clear, defined path.
Okay, awesome. So what about when you look at the challenges that you have faced over the years, that you had to now find that courage to overcome? What would you say has been the greatest challenge that you may have faced?
Well, there's so many things in public life, especially for women. You have children. I saw pictures of when I first started in politics outside my headquarters, and my children were in shoes and socks, and I couldn't believe it. I said, what happened? I felt like there was a big gap. And that's one of the challenges, how you are able to balance that reality. And I think I've done the best I can. I'm sure I could have done better. I think that's been one of the challenges. The other challenges has been, you in a collegiate environment, you want to create a sort of safe, friendly environment. But sometimes I learned that after probably my first 6 months in cabinet, sometimes you got to draw a line, and the friendliness has to, you have to make the clarify as to why I'm here, and what is the role, because sometimes there are, even those who mean well, they have views of women that are so embedded in their perspectives, that it's externalized to me and others, and so you have to educate them, and so I've had to do that on occasion, and I think they've gotten used to that now. But that's been a challenge, where you see yourself in a place of equals, and then you begin to understand the nuances of how you're really viewed, and so you have to create an understanding that this is how it go. That's been a challenge, and it's a continuing challenge, because it's so deeply embedded in our socialization, and how especially boys and even girls, how they see themselves. So our role really is, my role is to see how we can craft a new reality. It's not easy because there's so many challenges, and every time you think you're making a step forward, the challenges come back. And you look at the pandemic, this has created so many challenges for young people, and in education and even in socializing, which is something that was not on my landscape. I didn't dream I'd be dealing with something like this, but you are. And so you have to step up, and you have to do all that you can to take it back onto a course, because if you don't, it will go out of control, and it will deteriorate, and we can't allow that. And leadership is about not only not allowing it to deteriorate, but to taking it in a progressive direction for a better way of life, better than those who came before us. And I always say this: we have to understand the journey of the Bahamian people.
Yes.
And in the people, that many of us in the Caribbean, and it's through the Middle Passage. Most of us, it's the Middle Passage, and that's our legacy. That is a historical fact, and with that comes hundreds of years of certain types of realities,
yes,
including violence,
yes,
and including women, the way women have been viewed. And so I see my role in leadership as I always say, Bob Marley say, redemption song, about redeeming the whole experience of our people, and making us whole and healthy, and be all that we can be. And so the challenges have been those things I've expressed.
yes.
But the challenges also are the realities of the realities we live in. Yes. And being able to hopefully have an inspired vision about the way forward.
Okay. And so before we get your closing thoughts in terms of what is that global message that you want to leave with all of us here on International Women's Day, I want to ask one of our students, Ramona, who will ask a question of you, who is here, Ramona from McKeffrin, and one of the questions that she wanted to ask you at this time. So Ramona, if you could stand.
Good morning, everyone. My question would be, if there was one thing you would like to get out, additional thing you would like to get out to me or to the other girls, is that one message, one lesson you would like to give us?
I think the one message would be that the understanding that every human is entitled, male or female, boy or girl, is entitled to be all that they can be without any constraint or restriction in their personal development. I mean, and I don't mean normal constraints and restrictions of law and order. I'm talking about the ability of a human being to be all that they can be. And I think, and I want girls to understand that females come from a history. There was a time you couldn't vote. There was a time they couldn't hold line. It is reputed that there was a time a spouse could be beaten by an instrument the width of a thumb. So chastisement of a female, of a wife. We are coming from a history of a perspective of girls and women. And we have to change that perspective, where we see girls and women as in our entire context as the the counterparts of the human experience. But the counterpart is not inferior. The counterpart is fiery. It's gifted. The world waiting on it.
Yes.
It's respectful.
Yes.
And so I want the girls in our country to understand, to come to an understanding that the world is waiting on them, and don't disappoint them. Don't disappoint. And that would be my message.
Thank you so very much.
Yes,
Thank you so very much. And so there you have it. The world is waiting on you. And so we want to thank the Honourable Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin for taking the time to share with us today. She has a very busy schedule, but she made way to say, no, I'm going to be here today, and I'm going to lend my voice in terms of to this program. And so we just want to thank her. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. So as we come to a close, there is a quote that I want to say, and I found this one on Google, and it says, "Strong women, may we be them, may we know them, and may we raise them." And so with that, we come to bring our program to a close today. We want to officially thank and recognize the oral roots tradition from Trinidad and Tobago and the wonderful technical team that was responsible for putting this together. We want to recognize and thank the U.S. Embassy Port of Spain, and we also want to thank the AEIF Fund, Washington, D.C. So thank you once again, and happy International Women's Day. Welcome to the Women and Girls EMPO Women Summit virtual experience across borders. This summit is designed to provide empowerment, advocacy, to raise awareness of the plight of women and girls across borders by documenting similarities and differences and promoting gender-based violence prevention and gender equality in governance. This summit will be a regional, pedagogical, experiential knowledge share of IVLP alumni between 3 continents, collectively with Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Ghana, Kenya, Sri Lanka, and India. There are 3 components to the summit. 1,
focus group discussions to be held in August of 2021. 2, a 5-day virtual workshop to be held November 22nd through the 26th of 2021. And 3, a global summit to be held April 4th through the 8th of 2022. We want you to think, share your thoughts, views, experiences, lend your voice as we advocate for equality and equity and navigate towards governance, peace, and security for our women and girls.